Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Of course, we've gotten a little bit of winter here, and of course, now that it has come in, it's come in pretty hard. So we have had internet and phones and everything down. So Yah's will, we will be able to get this broadcast off without any glitches here. But it's kind of interesting and doing what we normally do. Friday is the preparation day, so we are preparing to keep the Sabbath. So we're having to go to stores and do all of the things that we normally do to get prepared to keep Yahweh's Sabbath. So we do the things that we can do, get the food that we need to get. And because, of course, it's a storm, now all of a sudden everybody's out Friday. So everything that normally takes us a few hours took an enormous amount of time yesterday because everybody else is preparing for a storm while we're preparing for the Sabbath day. They're preparing for a storm. And it shows you that, man, things will have to happen to man. You have to remember what is written. It says, keep your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that upon the day of visitation, they will glorify your Father who art in heaven. You have to consider what happened during the time of the children of Israel first learning of the manna and gathering the manna. Moshe told them on the preparation day, you're going to gather 2 times the amount that you gather on any other day, so that you're going to gather enough for that day and the Sabbath. Do not go to pick any on the Sabbath. Of course, what did the children of Israel do? We went out to go and see if they could find some on the Sabbath. So eventually, Yahweh instructed Moshe about, the children of Israel doing those things. And Moshe ended up just saying, you know what? Don't go out of your houses on the Sabbath day. So as crazy as it seems, because of the storm, most of America is keeping the Sabbath day today because their leaders told them, don't go out of your house on Saturday. Just go home and stay there. They closed stuff early on Friday so that everybody can go and get what they needed to get. So they kept the preparation day. They didn't know that that's what they were doing. Now they're forcefully keeping the Sabbath. They don't. Little league games closed down. All of the other little activities that they were going to do, all of those things have been shut down. So you have the majority of Americans at home right now, but it's not by their own doing. But it's interesting that this is how Moshe ended up telling Israel, because you just can't seem to follow instructions, just stay in your tent on the Sabbath day. That way we know you're not causing any problems. But it lets you know that man has an issue following Yahweh. And we are supposed to adhere to the righteousness of the law. But there are times when our leaders take these things out of context and use them to make merchandise of the people. But before we get started, brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Messiah, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, and wrath, and anger, and clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love as the Messiah also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, we're going to begin today's sermon in James chapter 3. James chapter 3, and we're going to start this at verse 1. When we get on the internet, we see some very interesting things, and you understand why people are apprehensive about dealing with any organized form of the word, because what kind of things are put out there and what man ends up doing with Yahweh's word. You find a lot of times that people use this word to make merchandise of the people, and some people love to have it so, because what happens is a lot of people don't want to read this word. They want to have those things acted out for them. Most of us were not brought up in a culture of reading a large amount of things. We read to pass a test, which is how I was before I came in this word. I wasn't accustomed to reading just to grow in understanding on something. I read because I had to. That's the only way that ended up happening. And the majority of people are in the same boat and still in that same boat, and it has caused us some serious issues whereby people are now allowing themselves to be led by people who should not be leading. James chapter 3, and let's start this at verse 1.
My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body.
Right. When it comes down, you have a lot of people ready to be teachers, but they have not gone through the process of learning how to follow so that they may learn how to lead. Go ahead.
Behold, We put bits in the horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth.
Right, as huge as this ship is, this little bitty thing controls the entire body of this ship. So you consider how small the tongue is, and it controls the direction of this body. So you have to be considerate of what things you allow to come out of your mouth. Go ahead.
Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold how great a matter a little fire kindleth.
Let me tell you something. How great a matter. One match can burn down a whole city block. Once that fire starts, anything can keep that fire going. All it has to do is to start. And sometimes you can start a fire with a simple word out of context, out of place. Somebody trying to do something nice, and you just come and say, you gonna do that? Boom. One flame. All it was one flame. Now, that little flicker has now caught on, because what happened is those things catch onto other flammable things. Whereas now, this person sitting right here didn't have an issue until that one thing was said. Now that fire just spread to there. Now they're agitated. Now they say something. Now that fire go to there. Now they're agitated. Now they say something in front of two people. Now the fire just went two different ways. Now you got a fire going this way and a fire going this way. And it all came from one little spark. Go ahead.
You know, brother, I don't know if people ever watch, even when you light that fire on a windy day, one of those embers can blow and go somewhere else and catch something else on fire.
But I was playing with some fireworks one day, and one of them went too high. And it went right into a tree, and I watched this tree start catching on fire. I was telling the kids, bye. Daddy about to go to jail. And it started, and then it went back out. But it didn't look good, because it was so high up. When it started burning, I wasn't going to be able to get up there to put it out. So if it started spreading, it was going to go right on and do its thing. And it didn't look too good for me. So I learned, don't do fireworks around trees. Yeah, that's that. You learn by example. When something goes stupid, you learn. Most people, you learn. Note to self, don't do that again. Some people turn around and do the same thing right after they realize you just did something stupid. Why are you trying to do the same thing again? Go ahead.
Jacob chapter 3 and verse 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, and it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell.
And it's ironic that it talks about the tongue and fire. It is a very fitting reference of how fire catches and how mess gets started with the tongue. Go ahead.
For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea, is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we Elohim, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the same mouth proceeded blessings and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be.
Right. So you have brothers on the corner saying that they're Hebrew Israelites, and they have a Bible in one hand, and they're cussing people out on the other hand. As soon as those people do not agree with what they're saying immediately, they have an issue with those people, because they have been told that they must agree before the conversation ends. So when the people get ready to walk off and the conversation, and they don't agree with what they have heard, now they're calling the people all types of names. And they believe that this is justified, but this is a cult-like activity to force people into your way of Go ahead.
Verse 11. Does a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Who is a wise man and endowed with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom.
Right. Your conversation is not just what you say. Your conversation is your walk, all the things that you do. So if you are to have or show a good conversation with meekness of wisdom, how is any of that allowing you to speak some of the most, condemning words to people on the side of the street, and you cannot know anything about those people just by those people walking by? You don't know anything about what their life is or what it is that they're going through. You can't tell that in 5 minutes. Sometimes you can be amongst people in the congregation and you don't know what they're about and what their life is. So how you gonna know it with somebody walking across the street? Go ahead.
You also got to wonder where your heart or what spirit you're dealing with to know you have videotaped this wrongdoing, but then air it.
You have to ask yourself, first of all, why would you want to videotape? People go out, period. Okay? People go out and talk to one another. People go out and do works. But what makes you want to videotape yourself talking to somebody anyway? See, there's something strange in that people have not really just thought about. Many people go out. Jehovah's Witnesses go out and talk to people all the time. You ever seen them videotaping themselves talking to the people? Why would you videotape yourself talking to somebody? Unless it's meant to cause turmoil. See, controversy brings a lot of attention. A lot of attention. So you think about, what happens when you're in school and somebody getting ready to fight and they start talking back and forth. All of a sudden the crowd gather, right? Because everybody want to see, what's happening. See, so you have to then deal with maybe these things are being put out on purpose to cause controversy. Go ahead, brother.
Well, they can get more views on YouTube than they can on that corner.
Right. You're right. What the brother said, they can get more views on YouTube than they can on the corner. I remember a brother telling me, I heard him talking to his sister saying, you need to stop your daughter from watching Jerry Springer because she got ready to fight the little girl next door, and once she got upset, she started saying, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. So she got used to, all this attention that comes with turmoil. So she said, hey, we about to fight. And this is the kind of stuff that happens. So you look at how people are accepting this understanding or the things that they're seeing, and they believe that this stuff is normal. Go ahead.
Yahshua chapter 3 and verse 14. But if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth.
And if that's not strife, I don't know what is. I want you to hold your place right there, and let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2. But if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. So 2 Timothy chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 24. Let's read verses 24 through 26.
And the servant of the Nazarenes must not strive.
Now, this is what a servant is supposed to do. So people are telling you that this is normal stuff, that they are supposed to be on the corner blessing whoever out who does not agree with what they say. But we're finding something different written in these letters. Go ahead.
But be gentle unto all men, apt to teach.
Apt to teach. And how can I teach anybody to do anything while I'm yelling at them and I know that they don't have understanding. And if this is this person's first go around with the word, I mean, you consider you got a child and you're trying to potty train the child. Do you yell and scream at the child while you're trying to potty train the child? You know the child don't have the understanding. Why are you yelling at the child? Now when the child get 8 and they still ain't potty trained, now you got you go ahead, you might want to yell at that one. You might need to raise your voice a little bit. But you know, if these are people walking by, they don't have understanding in the word like that. Why are you yelling at them? Go ahead.
Patient. Verse 25.
Patient. How can you be patient in a one conversation sitting and you're already yelling obscenities at these people? That's not the word of Yahweh. Yahweh didn't tell you to do that. Go ahead.
In meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves. If Elohim peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledgement of the truth.
To the acknowledge, Elohim has to give that to them. You can't give that to them on the corner. Did you finish that?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
And that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by men at his will.
All right, now let's go to Matthew chapter 12. You see, a lot of times what's happening is these are younger brothers who have been coerced by older brothers to get out on the corner and do these things. And they believe that they're doing the right thing. Matthew chapter 12, and let's read verses 14 through 21.
Then the Pharisees went out and held a council against him, how they might destroy him. But when Yahshua knew it, he withdrew himself from thence.
Now, Yahshua has all power. Yet, he withdrew himself knowing that they were trying to hold a council against him. Go ahead.
And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all, and charged them that they should not make him known, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, Behold my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall show judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not strive.
Read that again.
He shall not strive.
He shall not strive. What we read before. So people want to tell you that they're in line with the Messiah. And see, they take some things out of context, thinking that, you know, well, Christ did such and such. We're going to get to that. Go ahead.
Nor cry, neither shall any man hear his voice in the streets.
Neither shall any man hear his voice in the street. So Christ ain't have no bullhorn. Hear ye. All y'all are this, that, and the third if you don't believe what I believe. No, Christ didn't do that. You didn't get that from Yahshua. We don't know where you got that from, but you didn't get that from Yahshua. Go ahead.
Verse 20. A bruised reed shall not he break, and smoking flax shall he not quench, till he send forth judgment unto victory, and in his name shall the Gentiles trust.
Right, but the way they're dealing with this word, they're actually causing the Euro-Gentiles not to want to deal with this word. So then we have to understand then, what spirit is that is leading a people against this word? Yahweh is not just he is the Elohim of Israel, but do understand, he the earth and the fullness therein belongs to Yahweh. So he's not just a ruler over Israel. So what makes you think he would not bring the other nations into salvation? Now let's go back to James chapter 3.
James chapter 3 and verse 15. This wisdom descended not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish.
Right. Now, people say, well, I learned, some word. Right. It was some wisdom. But it was earthly, sensual, and devilish. Go ahead.
For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work.
Mm-hmm.
But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated.
Easy to be entreated. That's the way this word is supposed to be. Easy to be entreated. Now, when we look at this word is in the Old and New Testament, and it's different connotations when you get to that. In this New Testament, in this part, it is in Strong's, when we look it up, it is G2138, which is eupatheis, which is good for persuasion, that is compliant, easy to be entreated. So this is how the servant is supposed to be. If it's easy to be entreated, that means it's easy for somebody to approach you. It's easy for them to come and have conversation with you about the word. Now, if I look like Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, and I got big things, and they pointing out. I mean, come on now, these some big dagger looking things, them spikes all over, and I mean, you look like Bruce Leroy now, and you don't know if this Power Ranger finna kick you or he gonna read it to you. Now, first of all, how easy is it to approach somebody who looks like Bruce Leroy? Then they were a group of people, and they all yelling at you. How easy is it to approach Bruce Leroy and his band of Kung Fu Bandits? How easy that you just run, you see a bunch of Crips, but all these brothers got on blue, and they Crip walking, they throwing up gang signs. Do you just walk up, excuse me, brother, I brought him? Do you walk over there and talk to him? I don't think so. Right. Go ahead, man.
Full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace.
Right. Now, if we look at that entreated in the Old Testament, what that implies, it is H6279, and it is to intercede. It is to burn incense in worship. That is intercede, to pray, or for that prayer to be heard. So you'll read things where it says Yahweh was entreated of them. Then he heard their prayer. Or they entreated Yahweh. Or they went and made prayer. So when you see this word entreated, do understand it has a different connotation in the New Testament than it does in the Old Testament. I just wanted you to know that when you come across it. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 2. And the title of today's sermon is Occult Life. Yohanan chapter 2, and let's start this at verse 1.
And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Yahshua was there. And both Yahshua was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Yahshua saith unto him, They have no wine. Yahshua saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with you? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Yehudis, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Yahshua saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. And when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning does set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but you have kept the good wine until now.
Right. Now you're going to have a whole lot of people that's going to tell you that it's not righteous for any man to drink wine. And these are people who have been, of course, in this word, whether they're Christian or what have you. But why would Christ make wine and then tell people that it's unrighteous to drink wine? It doesn't make any sense. So then they got to try to fix that lie with another lie. I always tell you, one lie deserves another. And after you tell one, you're going to tell another. So the next lie is, now he made grape juice. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 11. This beginning of miracles did Yahshua in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. After this he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother and his brethren, and his disciples, and they continued there not many days.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yehudis' Passover was at hand, and Yahshua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting.
Uh-huh.
And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables.
Right. So now there's a zeal for Yahweh's house, understanding that they have now made and turned Yahweh's house into a house of merchandise. So he's driving these things out of this place, out of the temple. Now, many take this out of context and then use it to do all of the things that we just read about and think that they have some kind of excuse. You see how Christ dealt with these things? This is in the temple. This is in a situation where you have educated people who are supposed to know better. This is not him running up on strangers. He's dealing with people who are supposed to have understanding, and they have everything in here for sale. And don't think they could do this without the powers that be allowing them to do it. They didn't just come up and start selling stuff. No, somebody had to let them do that. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, and make not my Father's house an house of merchandise.
Right. When you get to some organizations, all they want to do is sell their merchandise. Everything is for sale. When you get to a lot of these Christian organizations, they won't teach the word in their sermons. They'll then put out a book, and then you got to buy the book to learn anything. So you look at all of the books and all of the other things and how much money they're making on those items, then now the people have to pay to hear the whole word because they're getting a lot of song and dance in the regular sermon. So it's making merchandise of the people. And some of those things are $45, $50 to start with. Go ahead.
Yohanan chapter 2 and verse 17. And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of your house hath eaten me up.
Right. The zeal of Yahweh's house. Now people take the zeal of Yahweh's house, misuse this writing, and think that it gives them the right to do all of those things on the corner. But they're dead wrong. Go ahead.
Then answered the Yehudis and said unto him, what sign showeth you unto us, seeing that you doeth these things? Yahshua answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Yehudis, 46 years was this temple in building, and will you rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body.
He spake of the temple of his body. He was talking over their head. Let's go to Matthew chapter 23. Matthew chapter 23, and let's start this at verse 1.
Verse 1. Then spake Yahshua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not you after their works, for they say and do not.
So he's letting you know straight up that these people are hypocrites. They have a office, they have authority, but they are hypocrites. Do understand, I'm not telling you to fight against what they have going on, because you're going to get yourself in some trouble. So the stuff that they say, go ahead and do, but you're going to watch them do some things. Don't think that what they do is right. They are hypocrites. So when they read the word and they say, thou shalt not steal, listen. But when they leave out of there and that stuff you see them doing, don't do that stuff. I'm telling you now, they ain't right. Go ahead.
Verse 4. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. With all their works they do for it to be seen of men.
Right. If you are videotaping your conversation, what's the purpose of doing that? So that it can be seen of men. See, if you were going to teach, you could have just sat down with a camera and taught and put that on the internet. Then the purpose of that would then be to teach. But see, you can get, like our brother said, you get a lot more views with arguments and yelling, because people love to hear controversial type things. But what they're doing is causing people not to want to hear the word of Yahweh is what's happening. Go ahead.
They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments.
Enlarge the borders of their garment. The borders of the garment is where your fringes go. And the fringe that we wear is not for the letter of the law. It's for the righteousness of the law. And then when you deal with enlarging it, the book says you're supposed to have it on the four corners. These brothers have fringes going all the way around the bottom. So Yahweh said have 4, they got about 44. So if that ain't enlarging the borders of your garment, I don't know what it is. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And love the uppermost rooms at feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi.
Right. You see, you have some that love these titles. They love titles and chants. I was speaking to one of the brothers last week while we were working on the building, and praise Yahweh and thank you, brothers, who all chipped in and working for us to do renovations and whatnot to the building. But I was talking to a brother, and he told me that he wasn't sure, but he believed that another one of the congregations might have moved to another location. And I just decided, I said, I'm going to go to their internet, their site. And I hadn't gone in a while. And I mean, man, it was some of the strangest things ever. When you talk about these loved to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi, loving these titles. I watched a video, and this is a brother who we learn under the same elder. Anytime he now has a thing on, and it's on their site for anybody to see. Whenever you say his name, they all have to stop and salute. I said, what the hell? Now imagine you saying, yeah man, and Esau, Ben Israel. What that? What was that? And I'm watching as it's happening, and at this point, it's getting sad, because what's starting to happen now is really starting to look like the whole Jim Jones situation. And although it's funny when you start mentioning it, but when you start putting all of those things back together and back to back, it's not funny at all. It's sad, because the last thing you would want is for something to happen to those people. I mean, you have to consider, what if you knew Hitler before he was Hitler? Regardless as to who or what somebody else might have done, nothing deserves, for somebody to get thrown in a gas chamber and stuff like that and that kind of stuff. What if you knew him before he did all those things? Would you say anything? If you had the opportunity to see Jeffrey Dahmer before he flipped out, would you just keep quiet Or when everything come out in the news, then you say, man, I figured that. But what about all those people, man, that all of those things end up happening to, and none of them were warned about, that situation because people kept quiet. I want you to read this thing. I got something on here about Jim Jones, and I want you to read that. It's very interesting in that in this congregation, I noticed all of a sudden, I learned with some of those brothers, and I noticed that all of a sudden, all of the brothers' name ended up being Ben Yehuda. Well, that's his name. So then all of the brothers had to take the name of him. That's like me naming every last one of y'all after me. Now, what they're going to tell you is that, well, it's because of the tribe of Yehuda. No. That was his name, and none of us know exactly what tribe we in. So I can't tell all y'all that y'all from Yehuda. So I'm going to call y'all Ben Yehuda. That is house of Yehuda. So this guy's name was Ben Yehuda, and then all of a sudden, every last one of those men in that congregation were then named Ben Yehuda. So then he named them after him. You have to notice cult-like things before you get off. See, the same thing I noticed in Christianity. I was going to a Christian church, and there was a preacher sitting here, and he had a 30 to 40 foot picture of himself behind himself. And I said, now I don't know nothing, but I know that don't seem right. But it did what it needed to do, because those people worship him. Oh, Bishop this. Oh, Bishop. That's what it was meant to do. Consider. You ever looked at any of those documentaries and see what happened when they went to overthrow Saddam? You ever notice he had pictures and statues of himself everywhere to make those people worship him? Go into all of those strange cities where they have to worship the leader, and you're going to find images of those people all the way around. We should have all seen this coming. When our elder died, this next leader that came about is the one that I'm speaking of. He immediately put a picture of his family at the front door. Man, what? We don't do that. Where'd that come from? Right. Go ahead, brother, read that.
Jim Jones, by name of James Warren Jones, born May 13, 1931, near Lynn, Indiana, U.S., died November the 18th, 1978, Jonestown, Guyana.
Now, this is coming from Encyclopedia Britannica. All right? Go ahead.
American cult leader who promised his followers a utopia in the jungles of South America after proclaiming himself Messiah of the People's Temple.
Now, when you talk about he proclaimed himself Messiah, a lot of times the way people do this is not by saying it. What they do is attribute titles to themselves. They allow themselves to be called by titles. Remember, it says, and greetings in the market, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi, Master, Master. So they allow these titles. So you'll start hearing these chants when you turn on or go to these people's internet site. You start hearing chants. Bless the Comforter through Yahshua. A lot of times, those are the open doorway, and you'll hear the same things over and over and over again. Later on, you'll find out what those things mean or what they're trying to attribute those things to. In the beginning, we know that looking at what Ben-Ami set up, he believed in Yahshua. I read a book and a half that Ben-Ami put out, and he believed in Yahshua. Later on, it came to be that he was Yahshua. Now, I don't know when that happened, but in the beginning, he believed that. You have to learn and watch for cult-like characteristics, because a leader must follow Yahweh to be able to lead the people in the direction that they're supposed to go in. If y'all get too warm, y'all let me know. We can turn this down. Go ahead.
A San Francisco-based evangelist group. He ultimately led his followers into a mass suicide, which came to be known as the Jonestown Massacre, November the 18th, 1978. In the 1950s and 60s in Indianapolis, Indiana, Jones gained a reputation as a charismatic churchman, and after moving his headquarters to Northern California in 1965, first settling near Ukiah and then in San Francisco, and inflicted San Francisco in 1971.
There you go.
He apparently became obsessed with the exercise of power.
Okay. First of all, he relocated the people, and a lot of people don't understand what the power of relocation is. One thing, it is a serious exercise of power if you are going to make those people relocate. Secondly, what it does is it gets all the people away from their power base of family, okay, so that they will have absolutely nothing to depend on except you. See, it's different when we have people logging on to our internet and people moving closer to where we are. We didn't tell those people to move. They want to be close to a place where they can worship Yahweh. We put our things out openly. We don't hide anything. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do any of those things to be to listen to our classes. So you have to consider what it says about Jim Jones. He became obsessed with power. Now, after my elder died, this guy was the next leader who assumed power, and he was the head deacon at that time. He immediately played a game called Simon Says. And the Simon Says, in Sabbath class, he said, stand up. Then he said, Simon Says, stand up. It was an exercise of power. It was one of the most twisted things, we had ever. Understand now, our leader, who had been a teacher for over 40 years, had just passed away. And this is the kind of turmoil that we went through immediately following. So immediately following, we got someone standing up playing Simon Says. It wasn't a game. What it was an exercise of power. Watch I make them stand up. Watch I make them jump. Watch I make them move. See, we didn't understand what was going on. Some of us understood right away, but we didn't move right away. And then in the whole thing of getting people to salute. I watched the thing on Jim Jones, a video, and each one of the members were made to start, to doing these chants. And they were saying stuff. They would say their name and say that they wanted to overthrow the government, and they had these weapons. And these people did not believe these things. They were saying it because, they were instructed to say those things. And then they were, it's a recording of him openly talking with his members, downing their families, and these people are talking about their families and things that they want to do, and it was family who did not agree with them being in that organization of what they would do to them. And it was some really, really twisted things. But what you have to understand is what happens is people take scripture and take those things out of context. Remember, there's a part written where they said to Christ, your mother and your brother seek you without. And he says, who is my mother and my brother? My mother and my brother are the people that sharing this word with me. Now, they take that out of context and then use to separate you from your family. Let me tell you something. This word is going to separate you enough. You ain't got to do nothing to do that. All you got to do is speak the righteousness of this word, and your family going to get the hell away from you. When you start telling them, when they start putting pork in front of your face and you said, that's a filthy beast. That's a filthy beast that you are not supposed to consume. You know what? I'm not going to invite you to one of my get-togethers no more. I spent a long time cooking this swine for you to come in here and talk and tell all my guests that this is a nasty, filthy beast. It is delicious. I got pineapples on top of that ham. Right. That's right. They're not gonna want you to know what that they're not gonna want you to tell anybody. When you talk about exercise of power, when this person took charge, you have to first understand something. My elder put me over this media department, and nobody else could be on television. He had took all of these other people off television. I want you to consider something. There are 2 elders of congregations right now. He took both of those elders off TV because he said they were not presentable and they didn't present Yahweh in a correct manner. Now both of them ended up being elders and leaders of congregation. It was him that took them off air. Now they're not telling anybody this. So once he died, of course, the next guy who assumed power came in, let me do a 2-hour meeting, and then fired me in my own meeting. What was that? An exercise of power. It wasn't about doing anything, he could have did whatever he wanted to do, but it was about an exercise of power, thinking that it was going to kill me. At the end of the day, I must be thankful. It is because of all of those things that I am a priest, because I never would have made that decision on my own. I never would have moved on my own. At the end of the day, I got to thank those brothers for what happened. I want to go to Yohanan chapter 10, and I want you to read something. Now, the ultimate move, of course, while all of this was happening, the elder who assumed power after my elder died came in and ordered everybody to eat on atonement. He came in and told them, and it wasn't a conversation, it was a order. He said, you better not come with a fast. Now, the next person who then became elder, I watched him grab his bag and walk right out of the door. He never warned any of those people not to eat. He never warned those people not to take part in openly going against Yahweh's word. You have to consider what happens. Yohanan chapter 10. Now, I didn't understand the blessing that was happening. I was immediately after the death of my teacher, I was stripped of all my power. That was a protection of Yahweh, and I had no idea. Some things you get to whining about, and you don't really know that that's Yahweh protecting you. Boy, move out the way, because all hell's about to break loose. And I'm sitting there whining, but Yahweh, I can't do my job. Shut up, boy! But I can't do my job. Shut up. But Yahweh, this is what I want to do. Just shut up. So when all that hit the fan, wasn't no blood on my hand. You have to learn. Yahweh does things. That's why you have to stop in every little nook and cranny along the way. We always whining about this. We whining about that. Why don't I have this? Shut up. Yahweh is protecting you and you don't have an idea. And then you fighting against the protection of Yahweh. Now, of course, after it's all over, now here go my stupid self. Oh, Yahweh, thank you. The whole time I fought him now. Right. That's when you understand the grace and mercy of Yahweh. The whole time he was protecting me, I'm fighting against him protecting me. Go ahead.
Brother, we even heard the thing of him inserting himself and his position into people's baptisms.
Yeah. It was said that those names were, they started to insert names in that. Right. See, what you find is when Moshe anointed Yahshua, it was an open anointing that this is the new leader. That's not what happened when my elder died. You have that it was a fight for power amongst the deacon board, which is what ended up taking place. So you have to consider these things of how they got to the positions that they were in. Go ahead.
To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them. And the sheep follow him, for they know his voice.
The sheep follow him, for they know his voice. The voice is Yahweh's voice. The word is Yahweh's word. See, you should be able to hear Yahweh's voice in the thing. not hearing my voice. Go ahead.
And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers.
So when we hear strange doctrine, you should be versed enough in the word that strange doctrine should at least at some point cause you to start asking some questions. Hey man, hold on. Something ain't right here. Go ahead.
This parable spake Yahshua unto them, but they understood not what things they were which he spake unto them. Then said Yahshua unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture. The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep.
The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. Okay? There was a point that there were so many things going wrong after my elder passed, and things had to be said in open forum. I already knew it was, they were laying my neck on the chopping block. But it got to a point where the Sabbath wasn't even a day of rest. It wasn't peaceful anymore. I got to the point after years of being in this word that I could not look toward the Sabbath as a peaceful day. But there comes a point when you have enough information that Yahweh said, oh no, you don't get to sit back no more. It's time for you to work. You don't get to go to school forever. At some point, you got to get a job. So they got them people they call professional students. They just come out of one school and go to another. And they get out of that school, they go to another school. At some point, hey, you got 3 degrees now. Go work. Go ahead.
Yohanan chapter 10 and verse 12. But he that is an hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not.
Right. See, the hireling has a different thing. The shepherd will put his life on the line for the sheep. Go ahead.
Seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth.
Leave the sheep. I watched, after I was stripped of all power, not understanding that Yahweh was protecting me, I then watched somebody order. This is on atonement, and we're watching food be carried in. People are coming from other congregations, just sit in the parking lot and watch. Say, man, are they really about to eat in there on atonement? So you're watching food come in, and this person has ordered people to eat, and the current leader of one of the congregations grabbed his book and walked right out the door. And I watched him walk right out the door. Didn't say not one thing to anybody. And that is now the leader of one of that congregation after they threw this guy out. Go ahead.
And the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling fleeth, because he is an hireling.
The hireling flees because he's a hireling. He don't care for the sheep. He's just there to make whatever he can make and do whatever he can do. These sheep not his. He don't care nothing about them sheep. If he cared about them sheep, he would have put his neck on the line for them sheep. Go ahead.
I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and I am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore does my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father.
All right, brother. Let's go back and read the rest of that. That's right after, right in line right there.
In the face of the mounting
This is
accusation,
back to the things about Jim Jones. Go ahead.
in the face of mounting accusations by journalists and defectors from the cult that he was illegally diverting the income of cult members to his own use.
Right. Illegally diverting income of the cult members to his own use. Now, when this person who assumed power after my elder, I had a studio, and all the music that was recorded in my studio. After this person came to power, he then ordered everybody in the congregation, y'all can't go to his studio no more. Y'all have to go to another guy's studio, who I helped set up anyway, giving him enough stuff so that they can even record at that place. So the whole thing then that they can have the works of the people, it then belongs to them. Now that's the one who assumed power. After they eventually threw him out, the next one told me that my album that I did for Yahweh, I need to give that to the congregation and let them deal with it. This is the same one who walked out and left the congregation. So this is the second one. So this is back to back. So when people call themselves ready to be teachers, you need to ask yourself, have Yahweh called you to do such? Have you understood these things? These are growing pains right here. So when I deal with stuff, do understand there is much things that we're going, not just stuff in the word. We have actual situations while we do what we do. Go ahead.
Jones and hundreds of his followers immigrated to Guyana and set up an agriculture commune called Jonestown in 1977. As ruler of the sect, Jones confiscated passports and millions of dollars and manipulated his followers with threats of blackmail, beatings, and probable death. He also staged bizarre rehearsals for a ritual mass suicide.
Rehearsals for a mass suicide. Go ahead.
On November 14, 1978, U.S. Representative Leo Ryan of California arrived in Guyana with a group of newsmen and relatives of cultists to conduct an official investigation of alleged abuse. 4 days later, as Ryan's party and 14 defectors from the cult prepared to leave from an airstrip near Jonestown, Jones ordered the group assassinated. When he learned that only Ryan and 4 others, including 3 newsmen, had been killed and that those that had escaped might bring in authorities, Jones activated his suicide plan.
He activated his suicide plan. His paranoia was about him going to jail. So in his paranoia, he then activated the suicide plan for the rest of them. See, a lot of times people are not paying attention to what's going on. This was about his paranoia. We have the same thing going on amongst Israel, and people don't notice. What we find is Jake liked to self-medicate. So instead of us going to the doctor and finding out, that we may be, paranoid, Jake just think he can smoke himself to death and smoke his problems away. So, but what ends up happening is Yahweh gonna get the blame for that. They're not gonna say, this man who became a priest of a congregation became paranoid and did something to those people. No, that's not what they're gonna say. What they're gonna say is Hebrew Israelite orders such and such and such. That's what they're gonna say. Yahweh is the one that's gonna get the blame for that. Go ahead.
On November 18th, he commanded his followers to drink cyanide, adulterated punch, an order that the vast majority of them passively and inexplicably obeyed. Jones himself died of a gunshot wound in the head, possibly self-inflicted. Guyanese troops reached Jonestown the next day, and the death toll of cultists was eventually placed at 913, including 267 children.
All right, 276.
276 children.
Now, some may think that I'm making this correlation between this particular man and Jim Jones on my own. But I have personally heard, Lael has heard it as well, and another brother who was a deacon as well at the time heard it, where this brother said, if the elder who is leading you says drink the poison Kool-Aid, you just drink the poison Kool-Aid. I'm not making this correlation. He made the correlation by making the statement. This was a statement that I heard years ago. Now you start to put all of these things together, and it's some scary stuff that Israel is getting themselves into. Let me go to, let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. Because I want to show you where some of the things, some of the concept of Yahweh's word is being taken out of context. And for some people, it's easier to follow because they've already been a part of other organizations. See, people who have been a part of Jehovah's Witness organizations, it's easier for them to allow somebody to rule over them in that way. In the Jehovah's Witness congregation, you can be excommunicated and be in the same room. Can't none of them people talk to you. You gotta go talk to one of the leaders to find out why can't nobody talk to you. You just come in, hey Kish. So you think Kish just got his butt on his shoulder today. So you go on, you just go on down the line. What's up, Eli? Wait a minute. All of a sudden, ain't nobody allowed to talk to you. Hey, there are people that were ordered that they could not talk to people of other congregations. Right. Read Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 17.
Obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as they that must give account, that they may do it with joy, and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you.
All right. Now, this is what these things say. Let me read to y'all what got my head on the chopping block. Let's go to Acts chapter 5. Because see, the word is profitable for many things. But you must know where to go to read those, to interject what is being said if those things are being read out of context. So, this is this thing, obey those that have rule over you. Okay. But everything, the word is good for all things. Now, let's read Acts chapter 5, and let's read verses 16 through 29.
There came also a multitude out of the cities round about unto Jerusalem, bringing sick folks, and them that were vexed with unclean spirits, and they were healed every one. Then the high priest rose up, and all they that were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees, and were filled with indignation, and laid their hands on the apostles, and put them in the common prison. But the angel of the Adonai by night opened the prison doors, and brought them forth, and said, Go, stand and speak in the temple to the people all the words of this life. And when they heard that, they entered into the temple early in the morning, and taught. But the high priest came, and that they were with, and they that were with him, and called the council together, and all the senate of the children of Israel, and sent to the prison to have them brought. But when the officers came, and they found him not in the prison, they returned and told, saying, The prison truly found we shut with all safety, and the keepers standing without before the doors. But when we had opened, we found no man within. Now when the high priest and the captain of the temple and the chief priests heard these things, they doubted of them whereunto this would grow. Then came one and told them, saying, Behold, the men whom you put in prison are standing in the temple, and teaching the people. Then went the captain with the officer, and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should have been stoned.
So they do things, but at the same time, if the crowd is with the people, then they have to deal a certain way, so nothing happens at that particular time. Go ahead.
And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, Did not we straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Then Cephas and the other...
Listen. Go ahead.
Then Cephas and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey Elohim rather than men.
Now, when it comes down, this is the part that got my head on the chopping block right here. Because it was said, obey those that have rule over you. My question was, what if the person who bears rule over you instructs you to do something against Yahweh's word? Should you obey them or obey Yahweh? And I had a group of people coming at me saying, don't say that. You are being disrespectful. No, man, we got people ordering folks to eat on atonement. No, I got to ask this question. And I had to ask that question 3 or 4 times before I got the answer. And the answer was, obey those that have rule over you.
Obey the man.
The answer was obey the man and disobey Yahweh. And I can't believe that after giving an answer like that, people still followed this individual. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 9. See, the lead, you have to be able to follow. And not follow the man who you were under before. No. You follow Yahweh, then you can lead his sheep. Go ahead, bro.
You know, it's one thing to read these situations that these brothers go through, but it's something else to actually stand by and see it happen. You know, just like we read here, they're in the temple and these brothers are teaching, but then the Sadducees or the priests are coming with officers to talk to them about what they're talking about. Remember the situations where if you, myself, and Eliel were standing out front of the building having a conversation, all of a sudden a deacon would just pop up. What are you all talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Because the paranoia of this person got so bad that deacons were appointed to interject in the conversations or stand by to hear what conversations were about.
I had an appointed person to watch me. I went to the bathroom and somebody standing out in the bathroom. Boy, you must drink a lot of water. What? Are you appointed to follow me? Oh, yeah, well, I had a point. If I went to the parking lot, somebody else, I got to the point where I would just walk. Man, I started having fun with it. Once I know you follow me, I'm going to do a whole lot of walking. I'm walking out, I'll walk back down. I bump into the person who followed me. I walk out and then turn back, walk back in. So I done scared them. You came back in so fast. Yeah. You couldn't you don't eat your Wheaties, take your nap, get ready. You going to follow me? Right. Because at this point, I know they follow me, and they have been appointed to follow me. Right. Ezekiel chapter 9, and let's start this at verse 1.
He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a rider's inkhorn by his side. And they went in, and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of Elohim of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the rider's inkhorn by his side. And Yahweh said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of them that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
Right. So Yahweh is saying, separate unto me all the people who care about what happens here. See, what ends up happening, now keep in mind, we're talking about all of these things that transpired. And you had many people sitting in the congregation, sitting straight forward, like they don't see what's going on the left, and like they don't see what's going on the right. They said, and when you asked anybody about, well, I don't want to choose any sides. But Yahweh said, separate unto me the people that sigh and cry. They know this is abomination. So all them neutral people, they think, well, we just going to sit here and because we don't want to take any sides. Right. We're going to tell you what Yahweh think about it. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And to others he said in mine hearing, Go you after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have you pity.
Right. Yahweh said, separate the ones who care about what's going on. They sigh and cry about these abominations. But all them neutral people, kill them all. See, they think their neutrality is protecting them. No. What you're doing is making sure that Yahweh kill you off. Go ahead.
Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children.
Right. So when Yahweh ends up dealing with them, he ends up dealing with their families too. Go ahead.
And women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark.
Right. The only reason he had the mark, because he sighed and cried about what was going on. So them people didn't keep silent about what was happening. So where people saying, oh man, Esau gonna say such and such and question this man during this time, right? Yahweh put a mark on me. Go ahead.
And begin at my sanctuary.
Right. So people think this is on something in the street. No, no, no. Start at my sanctuary. Righteousness has to begin at the house of Yahweh. Then it is spread abroad. Judgment starts at the house of Yahweh. Then it's spread abroad. Go ahead.
Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house.
Start with the elders. When you start dealing with them, start at the elders. Why? Them the ones who's supposed to know better. Start with them. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And he said unto them, defile the house, and fill the courts with the slain. Go you forth. And they went forth, and slew in the city. And it came to pass, while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face, and cried, and said, Ah, Adonai Elohim, will you destroy all the residue of Israel in your pouring out of your fury upon Jerusalem? Then said he unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Yehudah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood, and the city full of perverseness. For they say, Yahweh hath forsaken the earth, and Yahweh seeth not. And as for me also, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. And, behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done as you have commanded me.
I have done as you have commanded me. Do understand that the angel will not receive a failing report because of what you think and what you feel. Those angels are going to do the things that they are supposed to do. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. You know, we have gotten this thing, this hood mentality is, hey man, no snitching, no snitching, and we play with it. Snitches get stitches. We play with it. Let me tell you something about Yahweh. When it comes down to righteousness, if you hide a matter or hide wickedness, you are only as righteous as the wickedness that you justify. Exodus 23, and let's read verses 1 through 7.
You shall not raise a false report. Put not your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Right. Now, if you're an unrighteous witness, you can be an unrighteous witness by saying something, or you can be an unrighteous witness by not saying anything. What happened? But when you're standing there, so now the murderer of your brother gets off because you wouldn't say anything. Good.
Verse 2. You shall not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shall you speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Neither shall you countenance a poor man in his cause. If you meet your enemy's ox or his ass going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again. If you see the ass of him that hateth you lying under his burden, and willeth forbear to help him, you shall surely help with him. You shall not wrest the judgment of your poor in his cause. Keep you far from a false matter.
Keep you far from a false matter. What happened is, people understand that something is a false matter, but they just act like they don't know, because they want to be neutral. Go ahead.
And the innocent and righteous slay you not, for I will not justify the wicked.
I will not justify the wicked. Let's go to Revelation chapter 3. See, what you have to understand what it says about the watchman. The watchman attains unto his salvation by warning the people. I don't have to make y'all follow the word. That's not my job. All I have to do is make sure you understand it. What you do with it is up to you. My salvation is sealed when I give you and explain to you what's supposed to happen. You do with it what you want. If you decide you want to take that word and go and do something else with it, or you want to go make a whole bunch of money with it, my salvation not ruined because you decided to do that. I did what I was supposed to do. Revelation chapter 3, and let's start that at verse 13.
He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of creation of Elohim. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would you were cold or hot.
I would that you were cold or hot. Pick a side. But see, we have all those neutral people. This is why these things kept going on, because only one or two brothers said something. One or two brothers here and there said something. Everybody else want to be neutral. So they sat quietly and let all those things happen. Go ahead.
So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth.
This is what the fight, it should have been an all-out war between the people who were deacons of that body. Because those are the ones who are in control. There are reasons we have leaders of this congregation. When there are things that happen, I go to those brothers and we have conversations. See? But when it comes to being a situation where, hey, we might need to alter this, then I can't have a bunch of yes men around me. I got to have enough brothers who gonna stand up like men and say, hey, Sop, we probably need not to put this right here. You know what, brother? Thank you. We need real men, not no yes men. Yes, Sop, you're right. Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, Sop, do that. Yeah. Pour that gas in there and throw that match in there. Yeah, that's right, Sop. Yeah. Yeah, Sop, blow them up. Blow all of them up. Churn everybody. Yeah, do that, Sop. Yeah, you the man. You always right, brother. No. I don't need that. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Because you said, I am rich, and increase with goods, and have need of nothing, and knoweth not that you are wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that you may be rich.
Right, gold tried in the fire. See, we are Yahweh's precious metal, but it's going to have to be tried in the fire. See, those situations and circumstances that I was praying, oh, Yahweh, come get me out of, it was like Yahweh just went there. La, 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 la. I didn't understand I was being tried in the fire. He couldn't take me out. Go ahead.
And white raiment, that you may be clothed, and that the shame of your nakedness do not appear. And anoint your eyes with eye salve, that you may see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent.
As many as I love, I rebuke and I chasten. See, that thing that we hear on Sunday morning, God ain't angry with you. That don't fit this book. Yahshua said, as many as I love, I rebuke and I chasten. It says that a man who does not rebuke his child, he don't love that child. Because what he's doing is setting that child up for destruction. All of them people that go to those places where they say God ain't angry with you. Look at the foulness going on in this country. Why would the creator of all things be happy with that? Go ahead.
Verse 20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 3. Just a few books back, a book or two back. 1 Timothy chapter 3. See, with what we call a deacon today would be basically the underpriest according to what's written in this word. This is just the English term, what we have for this deacon is diakoneo, which is in Strong's G1247, and it says to be an attendant. That is to wait upon or to serve as a minister. They are servants of the house of Yahweh. This is what the deacons are supposed to do. They are just the same as the underpriests, and they have a role. Remember, when it came time to carry that ark, Dawid realized his mistake, that he went and had that ark moved without getting the Levites to carry it. So there are things that have to be done in a certain way. Now we understand that these most of these are letters in the New Testament, and that they are written for this understanding of the new church. The children of Israel already had set up and knew what things they were supposed to do. Understand, like it says in Romans, you are a Jew, and you make your boast of Elohim and are taught out of the law. The Euro Gentiles were not taught out of the law. So they need to have these things spelled out for them. And they don't have the same authority or the same rights as the children of Israel. But they also don't have all of the things that they have to do. So this is why we have to be careful when we try to do that one size fits all gospel, and it's not the same. The Euro Gentiles do not have to be circumcised. Children of Israel are going to have to get that done. At some point, Yahweh has given us a grace period, but you're going to have to get that done. 1 Timothy chapter 3.
This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach.
Apt to teach. Now understand, this is written to the Euro Gentiles, but it's giving you the things of how this person should be able to conduct themselves. They should be apt to teach. Go ahead.
Not given to wine, no striker.
Not given to wine. It didn't say they couldn't drink wine. Not given to wine. Not a wino. No striker. See, they're not on the street cussing people out. Go ahead.
Not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man knoweth not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of Elohim?
Right. So then you get people who have control over their house, so that that's not pulling them. Because understand something. When you talk about all of these things, he's giving him this layout, because the more a man has pulling at him, the harder it is for him to do his job for Yahweh, his Elohim. Because now he's got this pulling at him. He got the kids pulling at him. He got this pulling at him. He got all these other issues that is not in order. Now that's causing him a problem to do the things that he needs to do. Go ahead.
1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 6. Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach at the snare of the devil. Likewise must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre.
You know, I ended up in an altercation before my elder passed with this brother that was the head deacon at the time. And my elder said, "What you want me to do?" Said, "The brother don't have all his marbles, but he's your brother. What you want me to do?" He said, "Man, the dude speaking riddles." He said, "Sometimes he talk, and I had to go in the book and be in the book for 2 hours just to figure out what it is he's talking about." Double tongue. He's saying one thing, but he's really saying something else. just say what it is you're trying to say and mean what you say. Don't be speaking around the bush and through the bush and over the corner. Say what it is you mean. So it must be easy to understand these people if they are going to be in a position that they are in front of the church body. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Holding the mystery of faith in a pure conscience. And let these also first be proved. Then let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. Even so must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children and their own houses well. For they that have used the office of a deacon well purchase to themselves a good degree, and great boldness in faith, which is in the Messiah, Yahshua.
Right, and we know that this whole deacon thing is of this new church. This is of, because we know that Timothy was a Euro-Gentile. We know that this is for the new church. Among Israel, they would be priests, and it's not the same limitations, but it is somewhat like that. If you notice, when you read out of the book of Peter, he's dealing with priest and priesthood. Any of the writings of Saul, you notice you don't hear anything about priesthood. Why? Saul was the apostle of the Gentiles. Cephas, Peter, was the apostle to the children of Israel. There's a whole different, people want to loop all of those things together, just merge them in and act like they're together. They are separate. There's a reason why they're two different leaders for those things. Go ahead.
Verse 14. These things write I unto you, hoping to come unto you shortly. But if I tarry long, that you may know how you ought to behave yourself in the house of Elohim, which is the church of the living Elohim, the pillar and ground of truth. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. Elohim was manifest in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up into glory.
All right, now let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Numbers chapter 8. Numbers chapter 8. And we're going to read verses 21 through 26. And that being said, understand we have had much instruction as to what a deacon or a leader of the congregation is supposed to do and be. Brother Barak, can you come up here, please? Let me get you to remove your hair cover. I anoint you a under priest and deacon of this congregation. You can have a seat. Go ahead, brother. Let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Numbers chapter 8 and verses 21 through 26.
And the Levites were purified, and they washed their clothes. And Aaron offered them as an offering before Yahweh. And Aaron made an atonement for them to cleanse them. And after that went the Levites in to do their service in the tabernacle of the congregation before Aaron and before his sons. As Yahweh had commanded Moshe concerning the Levites, so did they unto them. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, This is it that belongeth unto the Levites. From 25 years old and upward they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. And from the age of 50 years they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more, but shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the congregation, to keep the charge, and shall do no service. Thus shall you do unto the Levites, touching their charge.
So that we understand that this new word dealing with this congregation with the children of Israel, there is a priesthood. Do understand that Yahshua is our God, King, High Priest. And then, of course, we are all under priests under him. We have to understand that Yahweh says he's going to call all of the children of Israel out in the various places where they are. We have a lot of people who watch us from different areas. We don't know how things are going to go down, so we teach so that people will understand what it is they do. Because you being where you are, and I know some of you guys desire to be among us, but it very well could be that when Yahweh starts to gather all of these people, that he may end up calling you to teach those people that are near you. So I pray you do pay attention, because you can't go back and redo things once they're done. And do understand that your salvation lies in saying what it is you have to say to make sure that the children of Israel know what thus says Yahweh. Even if that thing be good or that thing be bad, you cannot remember what was said to those prophets. Do not be afraid of the looks on their faces. Do the job that you have to do, for your salvation depends on it. Man is always going to be angry. You ain't never going to please man. Focus on pleasing Yahweh and let the rest of it fall where it may. That's all we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.